yeah. Then he showed her his meat, and then he thrusted a couple of times, his groin near me.
Oh dear.
Oh dear is right, Barry. Now, I assumed that I'd finished with Gregg Wallace yesterday in the 25-minute video, going on 25-minute video that I made about him. But unfortunately for him, unfortunately for Gregg Wallace, it looks like he's going to need a buttery biscuit barrister.
I want a f***ing lawsuit right now, motherfucker!
Because the accusations are still rolling in. The tabloids are doing the rounds of the battered women's shelters and ringing up the agents of long-dead TV hosts.
I've been bombarded by the tabloids who I hate and don't speak to.
Who appeared on Celebrity MasterChef. And they're trying to get anything that will stick. Now, having said that, some of the accusations against Gregg Wallace are getting a little bit lewd, you know, exposing himself, etc., etc., groping.
Bit creepy.
So they're not so funny, but we can still laugh at the funny ones, can't we? That's not illegal.
It's like, okay, is there such a thing as a predator?
Of course.
Well, that's a meta category. What's the category of predator? Bear, eagle, if you're a primate. Fire? Is fire a predator?
No.
Well, it's complicated because a fire kills you.
Who's Daniel Boland? Oh, Daniel Boland, this is a heavy hitter. Do you guys know who this is?
Whoa! Wait!
I was just like, what on earth? It was just making me more and more nervous and not at ease and not feeling like I'm in a professional show. I was a MasterChef contestant in 2009. Had great ambition before going on to the show. From the moment I stepped into the studio was when the illusion was lost. I was going to go and check on my trout.
You went to check on her trout. Now, if that isn't an opportunity to use the euphemism I've been waiting for years to use, if she went to go and check on the trout and I was the host, I'd go, oh yeah, checking on your trout, are you? More like groping for trout in a peculiar river. Shakespeare, you know. Everyone would be they'd love me, wouldn't they? They'd go, oh, he's so clever. Shakespeare. But instead they've got that horrible Cockney, Gregg Wallace, who probably just said something vulgar, you know, like, oh, is your fish all nice and wet? Oh, that's disgusting.
Going to go and check on my trout in the oven. So I opened up the door. Just as the camera crew, John and Greg arrived, to then when the smoke was coming out, and then he...
She like stammering and welling up. What's she doing? Is she remembering the smoke from the oven? Get a goddamn grip, lady.
Greg asked me, he said, oh, did you learn how to cook from your mum? I said, oh no, my mum was born on a kibbutz.
A kibbutz? Oh dear, Greg. A kibbutz, eh? I'd give them everything they demand. These people ain't playing around.
My mum was born on a kibbutz, so she actually hadn't seen raw meat before she met my dad. To which he then replied very quickly, yeah! Then he showed her his meat, and then he thrusted a couple of times, his groin near me.
Oh, what? And that ain't kosher, I suppose? I'm kidding. I would never. I would never.
And that's when you were sort of leaning over to
check my trout, yeah.
Now, on a serious note, because this is a serious show, after all, I wouldn't want any man, especially a guy like Gregg Wallace, to be thrusting his hips around my wife or any of the women in my life that I care about. All the women. Well, I say especially a guy like Gregg Wallace. Who would I want to be doing that around my wife? Some big hunk. Take her. It was fair enough. No, I don't know. I don't want any man thrusting anything at any time. It's very unprofessional. And I think that's what it comes down to. Basically, Gregg Wallace seems to me like a guy who's been misbehaving, right? Behaving in a way that's sort of creepy and a bit inappropriate, and nobody's really said anything for many years, and now a few people are kind of saying, well, he did make us a bit uncomfortable. I don't think it seems a lot worse than that, but it is just, I don't think the BBC were prepared for this, you know. Up until now they had an untarnished reputation.
Tiny kangaroo down. Tiny kangaroo down. Sport. Tiny kangaroo down.
Never before have they lived such dark times as they are now. This will be forever known as the Gregg Wallace incident, and hopefully they'll learn from this.
And no one picked him up on this. No one said anything about it.
No. And I think at that time I was just like, what on earth? So I'm getting these awful images of what he just said.
Look, I get it. Creepy Gregg Wallace might have made this lady feel a bit uncomfortable. That's totally understandable. But what is with this journo for the Sun here? Who does he think he is? Martin Bashir there with this tone of voice, like nobody called him out on it. Would you go so far as to say that your experiences on MasterChef were in many ways comparable to your mother's experience on the kibbutz? Would you say Gregg Wallace was your war with the Lebanon? Chill out!
My head's also thinking, my God, this whole thing is not what I'm imagining. So it was just making me more and more nervous.
Oh, come on now, The Sun. I expected better from you, The Sun. You're just doing Gregg Wallace dirty there. That's not fair at all, is it? Look at that. A real monster.
And not at ease and not feeling like I'm in a professional show. That he was saying my father showed my mum his meat, I think it just made it just so much more vulgar and, yeah, disgusting. It's not something I ever want to be thinking about, really. One of the other girls, she did say she got through to the next round and she had flour on her nose from doing her baking, and he said, oh, you've got cocaine on your nose. And she went, no, I haven't, it's flour. He went, well, normal people do cocaine, so that means you're not normal.
And that
was his comment, and she was, again, taken aback. He kind of thought he had the power to say as and what he wanted.
I'm sorry, I can't go on.
Wow. That really was an exhilarating ride, wasn't it? All right, so we've got another accuser here. It's his ghostwriter. Apparently, Gregg Wallace wrote a memoir about 10, 12 years ago, and this is what she has to say about him.
As I was either walking towards the car and he followed me, or just before I started walking, I could feel him touching me around my backside.
Now, I'm no expert in physiognomy, and far be it for me to tell you what impact that has on the veracity of what this lady is saying, but
my backside.
I don't trust her as far as I could throw her.
Got into the car, and then every time he was changing the gear stick, he would just give my thigh a rub or the knee.
I mean, come on, you've got to admit there is just something a little bit shifty about that face, all right? Ah!
I kind of looked up and then he dropped the towel. So I just...
In front of you?
Oh, and who's this Sparrowhawk?
Now, some of you may be tempted to write in the comments under today's video that, how are you being so judgmental, Danny? You know, don't judge a book by its cover, but all of that conventional wisdom that I've been brought up on, is that conventional wisdom? That sounds like a thing, you know, people say. I don't know. All that stuff that I was taught as a kid, you know, be nice and kind. I'm really starting to learn as I get older to just go with your gut. No amount of reason or evidence gets through to Daniel Boland nowadays. I'm so in touch with my inner child now. I'm basically all id. I'm like a hatchling grey goose. You know, I see something that looks like a bird of prey and I just think, ah, protect me, mother.
Of me, and I had a notebook, so I just put it like this, and I just said, just go and get dressed.
Funnily enough, as a father of two, a homely father of two, that is one of the most common things I do now in my life, face in hands. Go and get dressed. It's actually scary. It was like looking in a mirror.
I mean, the stuff he said to me, that isn't cheeky barrow boy Cockney humour. That's revolting misogyny.
Yes, it is. Wow, well, there you have it. Heston, what's his name? Not Heston Blumenthal. No, he hasn't attacked anyone except common sense with his crazy science cooking. Gregg Wallace is the person who's been assaulting everyone, allegedly. And that was the harrowing account of his ghostwriter's ordeal. God knows if she's got any receipts to prove any of this backside touching that she's reporting. But do we believe her? Well, I don't know. Now, speaking of physiognomy, here's a woman, the last woman we're going to listen to today, thank God, am I right? Is a woman I made a couple of videos about a year ago, Melanie Sykes. And bizarrely, I've come a full, what do we say, I've done a 180 or I've come a full circle with her. I made some jokes about her in my videos last year. Melanie Sykes from the Des and Mel show and the Boddingtons adverts. I made some jokes about her coming out as autistic in her 50s and having Tourette's and having a load of other things. You know, she's one of these Munchausen midlife crisis kind of women. But I've been watching her YouTube videos and she's been talking about Gregg Wallace. And to be fair, what she said is probably the most balanced thing I've heard from anyone. She kind of said, he's just a bit weird and inappropriate and unprofessional. And she mentioned this several years ago. She isn't jumping on the bandwagon. She mentioned this in her book that she brought out, I think, in 2021. So everybody's ringing her up and these horrible tabloid journals are trying to get in touch with her. And she explains all this in her long, rambling video. Says I. And I think it was actually quite reasonable what she said, to be fair. To be fair to old Melanie. And she's got a lovely physiognomy.
Every time Greg came over to the desk, I didn't really like him being around, really. Because it's all about vibrations and energy, and if you're not tuned into, I mean, you know, I didn't really give a fuck about winning or not winning. I wanted to get out, really, because I didn't really enjoy the experience. But like I say in my book, if I'm in a competition, I still want to be part of the competition. That's just natural for me. And the saddest thing, the worst thing about MasterChef really is that I didn't really learn anything about cooking. Isn't that crazy?
I absolutely love Melanie. She is a star, and I apologise wholeheartedly for ever having laughed at her in the videos I made about her last year, you know, for laughing at her autism, which sounds way worse than it is, but I made some really good points in those videos. Go and watch them. Probably don't, actually. They're probably really cringe-worthy. But I thought at the time I was making some great points about how coming out as an autist in your mid-50s and having Tourette's doesn't really help the guy who isn't like an outgoing model who's presenting a daytime TV program with Des O'Connor. You know, if you're just some catatonic lunatic, that doesn't really, you know, who ain't a model. I made the points much better in those other videos, probably. The point is, I've changed my mind. Melanie, I could listen to you all day. I love your voice, your cadence, your the things you say. I just, you know, bravo.
It's all mad. Honestly, I really can't believe what a fucked up fucking country this is. Ain't it though? Like, what works? Like, it's all a lie. Oh, shit, bollocks. It's a lie. People are weird. And everybody's being manipulated. Except me.
Oh dear.
Okay, anyway, I think that's about enough today. I think we've reached a conclusion now. Of course, you've all reached conclusions. Let me know what the conclusion is in the comments, of course. If you've enjoyed today's video, give it a like. It was a perfectly structured beginning, middle, and end story. You know, I was storyboarding it on here before I started. Anyway, if you've enjoyed the video, give it a like. If you haven't, then explain why in the comments, really. I want you to explain what the hell. Give me a good bloody reason. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so already. And oh boy, are you missing out if you're not on my Patreon. We've got some exclusive content. I brought a video out last night. I'll tell you this is my sales pitch for my Patreon. I got a very long message on Instagram today from a lady who just last night signed up for my Patreon. And she wrote a long message explaining how appalled she was by the video, by last night's video. So appalled that she had to immediately cancel her Patreon subscription. That's just how bloody crazy I am when I'm not on YouTube. Oh, when I get the shackles of YouTube off me. Whew, you wouldn't want to miss that. I'm very much in the swing of things. This is the second video in 3 days on YouTube. I made a video on Patreon last night. I'm making another video on Patreon tomorrow night. So if you want to get involved in that, then do so. If not, I'll be back on here very, very soon. I'll see you in the next one. Goodbye.
So is there a worse predator than serpentine, flying, fire-breathing reptile? Is that not the imagistic equivalent of predator? So in what way, if predator is real, in what way isn't dragon real?
I don't know why you say dragon. I mean, we have lions, we have tigers, we have saber-tooth.
Right, but why not abstract?
So a dragon is a pictorial representation of the abstracted concept of a predator.
Yes.
As you say, we already have the term predator, and so it might be useful in art, in narrative, but when you say the biology of a dragon, you must understand how that can be misleading.
I don't think the category of dragon is any less valid than the category of lion.
Any less biological?
Well, it depends on your level of analysis.
You would say that lions are an instantiation of this bracket term of predator.
I would also say...
Would you therefore say that a lion is an instantiation of the bracket term of dragon?
Yes. Yes, because we're not only fact-oriented creatures, right? It actually matters to us whether we get eaten